Welcome to another episode of The Climb, the Confident Leader podcast. I'm your host, Rahul Karan Sharma, and today I have the pleasure to have an amazing guest, very young in the entrepreneurship, but has done amazing work for his clients, Lucas on the show. Lucas, welcome to The Climb podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Rahul. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, Lucas, I know when we were chatting about your journey, you have helped many entrepreneurs, many business professionals to do amazing work with your tool, with your previous business. Can you give us a rundown of your entrepreneurial journey to our audience so they get to know more about you, Lucas?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been a little bit of a computer nerd. My brothers, I have two older brothers, they were always doing after school sports and different activities. When I was in high school, I would just come home and want to go on the computer.
Okay.
And it started off just with playing a lot of video games, but then eventually I realized that, if I could figure out how to make money and start a business on the computer, then theoretically I wouldn't have to get a job like many of my
Mhm.
friends. So that was actually how I first got into it. Was I basically started off as like a freelancer, just trying to learn like graphic design and just different services
Mhm.
to sell, which did okay. But it was all kind of just like playing around with things until I was in college.
Uh-huh.
When I was in college, I actually got started on this platform called Upwork, which a lot of people
Uh-huh.
have maybe heard of, freelancing platform.
Yeah.
I had heard that basically like digital marketing was, a hot thing. A lot of people were talking about Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising. And I had an internship where I had learned some of those skills. So I figured it could be a way that I could, pay some of my college bills, maybe order some, DoorDash during the week
Yeah.
if I had a little bit of extra spending money. And that was actually, kind of my start in entrepreneurship, was literally just starting off as a freelancer on Upwork. Um,
Awesome.
and then things grew pretty quickly, but we could talk about that, maybe a little bit later. That was how I initially got my start.
Very good. So just the passion of yours got converted into a full-time revenue generating business for you. That's so amazing. And I'm sure when you were starting, when you were playing games, when you were trying on Upwork, did you had any coach who was coaching you, or it was all learning on the go? Tell us about those aspects of your life.
A lot of the early stages, you know, you could say like a lot of like the YouTube videos and different learning resources I had was a lot of different coaches, because I very quickly realized, especially on Upwork, you're not gonna get any work if you're new to the platform. It's just like buying
Mm.
something on Amazon. No one's gonna buy, the phone case that has like 5 reviews. People want the phone case that has 5,000 reviews. So I very quickly realized that no matter how much I wanted to work with different clients, they weren't just going to hire me.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time just going through YouTube, looking up videos, and thankfully there were quite a bit from successful Upwork freelancers who were kind of sharing how to get started on the platform, how to build a portfolio, and that helped me a lot as well. Um, I didn't really have like a formal coach or a mentor
Mhm.
until I think it was a year before I graduated. So I was in my junior, going into my senior year of college. I'd been running the freelance business for about like a year and a half. And I realized that if I took this seriously, it could be a full-time thing. It could very easily be something that would enable me to not have to get a job after school. Um, and up until that point, I had made decent money with it, but it was very inconsistent because I was kind of just doing it in my free time whenever I felt like doing it. So that was actually around the time that I did hire my first mentor. Um, I started working with someone who had, built a very successful digital marketing consultancy.
Mhm.
And that was, it wasn't like immediately like, oh my God, I made millions of dollars, but it definitely helped lay the foundations, which as I kind of transitioned into the real world and, graduating college, it definitely played a huge role.
Awesome. So a lot of things going in my mind in this response of yours, Lucas. So a couple of things for our listeners. So one is he did self-introspection. So Lucas did his introspection to find out, okay, he just cannot make things happen from day one. there are players around and how he can come up with those players. So that's where he watched YouTube videos. So for you, if leadership is for you, if your organization is not giving you the training, it's okay. There are YouTube, there are a lot of other free platforms where you can learn about leadership. Well, Lucas, you spoke about this aspect about people want to buy from those sellers who have 5,000 reviews versus 5 reviews. What's going in my mind is, as an entry level corporate employee or as a individual contributor, when they are moving from an individual contributor to a leader, they're also in a very similar space because people are used to collaborate with folks who are more experienced.
Mhm.
These individuals, they were just parting with their fellow colleagues, and now suddenly they became their manager. Uh, and the employees are also looking for those seasoned people. So just as you mentioned, 5,000 reviews to 5 reviews, and I'm just drawing this parallel for corporate employee.
Yeah.
What would be your one advice to these corporate employees who are just stepping into a leadership role? They have competition with seasoned managers. They
Mhm.
only have 5 reviews. They need to get those 5,000 reviews, which will not happen overnight.
Yeah.
If you have to give one, a word of wisdom or one set of advice, what would that be for them?
I think, like you said, drawing the parallel to my own experience in business, the most important thing is it's not necessarily getting the experience and doing the exact task. Because I think, just like a lot of leaders in corporate, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who think, well, I've never done this exact task. There's a
Mhm.
lot, I work with a lot of freelancers who it's like, well, I've done Facebook ads for gym owners, but I've never done Facebook ads for dentists. And they kind of like put themselves into a box and they feel like, well, because this is some other thing, I'm not as confident in it. I'm not going to do as good a job of it. And if
Uh-huh.
you think about it logically, like even in that brief explanation, it's like, well, 80% of it is probably the same. Like
Same.
the way you run Facebook ads for a gym, the way you run Facebook ads for a dentist, 80% of it's probably the same. There's maybe like 10 to 20% that's going to be slightly different. And that 80% should hopefully give you confidence. Um, and I think a lot of leaders in corporate and just high level corporate employees are the exact same. I find because there's a decent amount of them in my audience as well. A lot of them have many years, sometimes decades of experience in leadership roles. Like
Mhm.
they had to lead in some way, but just because their job title didn't say like leader or senior or
Mhm.
manager, they feel like it doesn't count.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same thing with, trying to build a reputation in anything. The You likely already do have the experience if you like really just kind of like removed yourself from it and looked at it, from an objective third party perspective. But oftentimes, because we're so close to our work and we're so close to our knowledge, we can't see, the saying is we can't see the forest from the trees. So my advice would be um really take a look at like literally every piece of work that you've done, and you really have to ask yourself, if you are in a new leadership position, what are all of the other times that you've had to take ownership, take leadership? Like even if you're not leading like a team of 5 to 10 people, being able to self-direct yourself, I would argue, is a leadership role, because you're not taking an order or direction from someone above you. um
Mhm.
that mindset is the exact same way that I got started when, I was 20 years old. There was no good reason for someone to hire, a 20-year-old digital marketer on Upwork.
Mhm.
But I realized, from some of my experience doing graphic design and doing copywriting and different things, I realized like, oh, if this person wants to hire someone for $50 to write some marketing emails, I already know 80% of how to write marketing emails. The last 20% of learning how to do it for real estate investors, I can learn that. Like that's not rocket science. It's similar enough to some of the things that I've done. And I think that has helped me tremendously, is honestly that kind of like naive confidence of
Mhm.
just being willing to take what I've already done and being able to apply it to new things. Um, that is ultimately what let me build a reputation on Upwork, build a reputation with my business, and ultimately grow it from there. Um, and it's something that I see a lot of people who, are very intelligent, very ambitious, very educated. they'll sometimes deal with that lack of confidence. And
Yeah.
the unfortunate thing is, especially in the corporate world, that can sometimes cause you to get passed up for another peer who might on paper literally have less experience than you, but just because they have that confidence, they have that initiative, your boss or, a manager is going to be more likely to promote them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what I'm hearing from you is believe in yourself. So you have done some great things. Trust in your leadership, because if leadership has chosen you to be a leader, have trust in them. I mean, they would have seen
Right.
something in you. So
Right.
you need to just have someone telling you they believe in you,
Hmm.
they trust you.
Right.
Those words of confidence will definitely boost a whole lot of confidence in you. And as Lucas was saying, do a rundown of the things that you have done in the past, because leadership is not something you learn in the boardroom. Leadership is not something you learn in the classroom. You
Right.
start learning right from your childhood.
Right.
Just build that confidence in talking to your leaders and have trust in your leadership.
Yeah. Totally.
Great point. Now, so you spoke to us about your early journey. You spoke to us about how you moved into this business. And my listeners are curious who this young guy on this podcast, talking about this, what he has done, how he has changed the world that he's living in. So tell us your journey from, how you started and how you built this million-dollar business. And I'm sure when you started, you did mention the confidence was on a lower side. You were invisible, as you mentioned. The clients were not looking to you because they were looking for those 5,000 reviews people. What was those things that you did? What action you took? What was that mindset shift that happened in you that moved you forward? That, man, I need to make it happen. There is no
Yeah.
going back.
Yeah.
Tell our audience, they are way eagerly waiting to hear from you, Lucas.
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest mindset shift came from pain, from having honestly kind of having my back against the wall. So, like I said,
And you
I
said
start
pain. Sorry to
yes.
interrupt. Pain.
Yes,
Okay,
pain.
so your
Yeah.
pain was the mindset. Okay.
Yeah. Because I had been running my freelance business for close to 2.5 years, and it was doing well. Like it definitely paid my bills, but it was not anything substantial.
Mhm.
Um, And like I said, around a year before I graduated, I had hired my first mentor. I started learning about, how to brand myself, how to market myself, basically not to be so reliant on Upwork as a
Mhm.
platform. And that was helpful. And I was learning a lot from them. Um, and then March of 2020, so my second semester of my last year of college, that's when COVID hits.
Mhm.
And every single one of my clients, I didn't have dozens of clients, I had like six, but every single one of them canceled on me. So two of them, they literally just could not pay me because they were local physical businesses that had to shut their doors. And then the other four were so scared about like what was going to happen that they were just like, let's pause this for now.
Mhm.
Because they had employees they had to pay. They weren't going to keep a contractor like me, on a payroll if they couldn't even advertise anymore. So very quickly, my income went to zero. And then 2 weeks after that, we all got sent home from college.
Mhm.
So I went from thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be this big shot, CEO. I'm not
Uh-huh.
going to have to get a job like the rest of my friends, to then living back at my parents' house, basically being at like zero, like having no idea what I was going to do. Um, and I told my mentor this, and he was obviously, first of all, very calming because he basically said, like, this is what being a business owner is like. Like, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be a roller coaster. So I guarantee this is not the last, you know, rock bottom moment that you have, which is true. There have been many moments like that in my journey. But the second thing he said is, um, you should really think about how this can benefit you because, truthfully, it's like I liked what I did, but doing client work, like being a freelancer, being, working for someone else, it's basically like having like five different jobs at the same time,
Mhm.
and you're not doing a full time job for everyone, but it is very difficult to scale
Yeah.
that sort of operation. And I'd complained to him about that a few times, and he was like, you've already been complaining about this. You've kind of been given a gift in some ways. Okay, you said you didn't want this. Now it's taken away from you. Now you have basically 3 months before I graduate and I have to, figure out something to do with my degree and my time, um, to figure out what I'm ultimately going to do. And I was like, that's pretty smart. And he said for me to like just not jump into anything, but basically take like the next week or so just to research and evaluate and kind of think through like what kind of business do you ultimately want to build. Um, and that's exactly what I did. I spent about a week just thinking things over, doing some research. And the one place that I always came back to, and I think this is honestly thanks in part to my dad, because my dad's an author. He's been a financial writer for close to 30 years. He's written like 20, 30 books, and he still gets paid royalties on every single one of them. And I always thought that was really interesting because I was like, wow, you can get paid for what you know, and you could get paid 30 years into the future for something that you created as a product. And I saw that kind of as the natural extension of what I was doing because, I had a knowledge, I had a skill set that I was getting paid, but I was having to trade my time for it. I was having to physically do every single thing. So I thought, if there's some way that I can productize what I know, if I could put it into a book or if I could put it into, a video course or something like that, that could be interesting. And the other reason that kind of stuck out to me was because my clients had canceled on me because they said, well, my average fee, I think, was like $1,500 a month. But, $1,500 every single month to a small business, that could be pretty substantial. So I figured, okay, well, if a business doesn't want to pay me $1,500 every single month, maybe they would pay $500, $1,500 once and get some sort of educational resource that they could teach themselves or they could teach their team. Yep. So then they wouldn't be reliant on, a freelancer like me. And as I started to do research, it's a pretty big area online. I started finding these companies like Kajabi and Thinkific and Teachable, all of these different companies that teach you basically how to take what you know, put it into an online course or an online program so that other people can learn from that knowledge as well. And I kind of realized just over the next couple of weeks that this idea was like the one that stuck to me. Like there were obviously a lot of different other avenues, but none of them really interested me as much as this. So honestly, just out of naivety, I was like, okay, let's put this together and like let's see what we can make happen with it. So I spent about a month or so actually putting the course together, basically teaching everything that I would actually do for a client, but putting it into like videos. And then after that, I realized I couldn't just go on Upwork and say, hey, buy my course. So I had to now, even though I had done this for many businesses before, I had to figure out how to market myself. So I did the same thing. I researched, watched a ton of videos about how to run ads for books and for courses and things like that. I also asked my mentor. He gave me, quite a few good resources for it. During this time, I'll shamelessly say I stole a lot of resources and help. As the saying goes, great artists steal. So basically what I did is I took a look at like 20 different other people's ways of marketing online courses and just took the little bits and pieces from each one that I liked and combined them all into my own. And around
as long as you add your own creativity, it is not stealing. I think it's more of giving the credit and sharing the knowledge from the peers of the industry. So
yes, exactly. Not just ripping it off one-to-one, but taking small pieces and adding your twist 100%. So I finished the course and pretty much like all of the marketing for it, I think in May. And then I don't think I formally fully launched it with advertising until June. So it was around like mid-June, I think. And the initial results were not amazing, I'll be honest. I think I spent like $6,000 on advertising and I made $6,000 back. So I didn't really make any progress, but I was like, okay, this proves to me that people will pay for this. I just need to figure out how do I get in front of only the right people. And that initial $6,000 invested into ads, it gave me some data to look at. So now I knew like what questions to Google, what metrics I needed to improve, and so on. And then the very next month, July, I think in small part because of the improvements that I made, but also I think because of the progression of the pandemic, it was honestly very, very lucky timing. Like I was very fortunate to have this sort of product being sold during the pandemic because it was honestly the perfect thing to sell. The very next month in July, I spent around like $30,000, $40,000 in advertising and made over 200,000 in
Wow.
sales from the course. Um, and that was like I at the time I was like filling out like a spreadsheet of all my stats because I was very meticulous about tracking everything.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
remember filling everything out and it just didn't feel real. Like I was like, this is a video game, basically. Like this is fake money. And I remember calling one of my older brothers, Asher, and telling him, I'm like, I have this business. I don't know what's happening. Like I'm freaking out. And just like my mentor did, he calmed me down and he was like, Lucas, like whatever you're doing, like just don't change it. Like just keep doing what you're doing because clearly it's working. Um, and in the 12 months following that, that was the very first $1 million that I ever made in my
Wow.
business. So, um, going back to, kind of how I started it, like I said, a lot of it came from pain because
Mhm,
I had just lost all my clients. I'd moved back home. Um, I didn't have like any job prospects. So it's like
mhm.
a lot of my peers had done like multiple internships. They were getting return offers from the internships that they'd done. I had not done any of that because I was just focused on this little
Focus.
computer
Yeah.
business. So I had a fire under my butt. I was like, this either works or I'm going to be the kid who's still living at his parents' house unemployed. And I was like,
Mhm,
I can't
mhm.
let that happen. Um, that was a huge point. And then the second point, I think, was honestly, like I said, like kind of fortunate timing.
Fortunate
Um,
timing.
like
Yep.
my hypothesis that people didn't want to pay a contractor or an agency, they wanted just something that they could do themselves. That very much aligned with the mindset of how businesses were thinking during the pandemic. Um,
Mhm,
my course was not expensive. It was either $1,500 or a payment plan starting at $500. It was very affordable, and it was very much something that a business could take and implement themselves or teach to like a team member who is already doing some marketing functions. So I'm very grateful, to have that fortunate timing. But yeah, that event taught me a lot, and it taught me that like a lot of people when your back's against the wall when there's like a real deadline, that's when you
mhm.
can actually make things happen, and it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think for listeners, it's a good experience to know how Lucas turned his pain into a motivator. Uh, Many of us, we go into depression. Many of us, so we go into silos, and we have no idea what we want to do, and we go into that. Uh, we focus on mental well-being. That really goes for a toss, but here, Lucas turned his pain into his motivation and turned things around. So kudos to you, my friend, and to all the team that supported you in your journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, putting a segue on our client framework, Lucas, as we discussed in our pre-call, our client framework is focused on four leadership stages, being invisible, potential, achiever, and influencer. And each of these stages people face as they are in their leadership journey. And then we have a framework where we let people know if you're in a stage invisible, how you can move to the next level.
Yeah.
So, out of these four stages, which one of the stage resonates well with you, Lucas?
I honestly think the first one, the invisible,
Hmm.
because um that was in large part it was a reason why I started the business in the first place, was
Hmm.
because I didn't feel like I was going to be seen in any industry or in any job that I would try to apply for. Because I had friends that I looked at them and I'm like, oh, you're 100% like going to be, in consulting, or you're going to be in finance or something like that. Like I could see that their brain perfectly lined up for that. But I always kind of felt like, what's the saying, that the square peg in a round hole. Like I was like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to fit into any of these, and I could maybe be average, but I wasn't going to make like any real progress. Um, and I felt like that in school as well. I was never like an A plus straight A student. I would get B's, B pluses. I never really found like I felt like I found that thing that I was like truly amazing at, and I saw
Mhm.
other people who did have that, and I was like, wow, how does this come so easily to them? Um, and I think my brain it kind of began to seek out that opportunity. It began to think, if you're not like going to be top 5%, top 1% at this, then let someone else do it. And you need to find
Mhm.
the thing that fits best for you. Um, and even though, obviously there was like a good 2 or 3 years of my business that was just me freelancing and me never, I didn't make millions of dollars. Like I was making maybe like two, three, $4,000 a month. As a college kid, that was pretty life-changing money. But most importantly, I really felt like, wow, like I'm pretty good at this. Like I was, 20 years old and I was getting on sales calls with business owners twice my age. And I was convincing them to like pay me $1,000, $2,000 a month. Um, and I remember my roommate at the time, he's still one of my best friends today. He would like walk in while I was like finishing a sales call and he would be amazed. He was like, "How did you just get that person to like agree to pay you?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like I didn't have a script. I just kind of shared what I was good at and then I shared how I could help them." So I found that I was very good at working with clients. I was good at speaking their language. I had, pretty much until all my clients canceled on me, I had like an 100% 5-star review on Upwork. Every single one of my clients like stayed with me for at least like 6 months plus.
Wow.
Um, so even though I wasn't making a ton of money, that was like the first time where I was like, wow, like this is the first time where I feel like the people I'm working with truly appreciate what I'm doing for them. And I know that if they see that, it's just a matter of time before my income and the impact that I'm making, exponentially grows, which turned out to be true. So making the analogy to corporate America and, executives and leaders, I'm sure everyone has felt that in some function or been involved with some project, some team where it just feels like you're not really making an impact. Like you could disappear and no one would really care. And
Mhm.
I think it's very important to pay attention to that, even if it is painful, because I had experienced that so many times. I was like, anyone could be doing this. I'm not special. I'm not going to be truly appreciated in this regard. And I realized that wasn't necessarily like a bad thing. It just meant that I hadn't found my thing yet.
Mhm.
So rather than like trying to force myself to be the person who could, fit into this role or fit into this position, I was very willing to just say, no, this isn't for me. I'm going to go find something else, which actually turned out to work out really well for me. So, I would make that recommendation for anyone who wants to get further ahead in their career, who wants to be able to command a greater income, a greater amount of respect, a greater amount of appreciation, is to find those situations where number one, you are truly appreciated, and number two, your absence would be felt. Um, because I could tell in a lot of businesses, a lot of positions, I was like, anyone could do this. I'm just a number on a spreadsheet. It
Mhm.
wouldn't really matter if I disappeared.
Yeah.
But a lot of the clients that I ended up working with, it's like up until the pandemic, I was like, they're asking me for like everything with their
Mhm.
marketing. Like if I wasn't helping them with this, they would have no sales pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that was number one, that allowed me to, actually make money because I was valued. But number two, it made me realize what direction I should be going with my skill
Mhm.
set and ultimately my career, because it was something that just kind of came more naturally to me.
Correct.
So
Correct. Yep.
um, I definitely identify with that invisibility stage a
Mhm.
lot. And while it is painful, I think it's important to pay attention to that, because in order to find out like what you are meant to do, what you are
Mhm.
uniquely capable of solving, you have to know what you're not meant to do. And I went
Absolutely.
through so
Absolutely.
many years of being in
Yeah.
those situations where I'm like, this is definitely not for me. Like, no matter how hard I try, no matter how hard I work, I'm never going to be the person that's going to be the best at doing this job. And that's
Mhm.
fine. I just need to now seek out other opportunities that I could fit myself better into, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think you're making an amazing point here that don't, for corporate employees, don't be a number in the spreadsheet. Be the one who is making an impact.
Yeah.
As an employer, they have hired you to make positive impact, make an impact that will really move the things around. So make your presence felt. Be vocal during meetings. Be vocal with your leaders if you have ideas. That's something amazing.
Yeah.
I think the other piece you were talking about resonate with me when we do our public speaking courses. Uh, I have noticed that when we give specific topic to people, and when they have to prepare, versus when we ask them to choose their topic, it's
Yeah.
a huge difference in their confidence level.
Yeah.
So the point that you were making is that if you do things that is coming from your bottom of your heart, you will naturally be good versus when you are forcing yourself to do something. So in our courses, when we are forcing people to choose a topic, a
Yep.
sports lover, I'm giving them a topic about movies, a movie lover, I'm giving a topic around sports.
Yep.
It really takes a whole lot of effort for you to move things around versus if you do things that you love, then work is no more work, it's more fun.
Yep.
So
Totally.
I think you're bringing an amazing point. Now, I know you have a second innings that you were from your entrepreneurship, and you started another company called LLT Research. And I remember you were talking about a tool that will revolutionize the world, the tool that will really make things easy, gamify things. Please tell our audience about LLT Research and about the
Yeah.
tool that is in the making.
Yeah, absolutely. So LLT Research is basically my marketing agency and consulting company where just through a lot of the things that I've had to learn through marketing myself, we help other subject matter experts do the same thing. So we work with public speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, agency owners. We help them brand themselves, market themselves, just the exact same way that I have throughout my journey. And one of the things that I've realized now and doing this for close to like 5 or 6 years, one of the hardest things I've seen that many subject matter experts have is that, like I was talking about before, sometimes we're too close to our work. Sometimes we're too close to our knowledge and expertise.
Yeah.
Um, I'll work with very successful people, people that have had, 10, 20-year successful corporate careers, people that are doctors, lawyers, health experts. And the hardest thing for so many of them is explaining to someone what they do to someone who doesn't have the same level of knowledge and expertise as them.
Mhm.
Because for many people, if you've been in the same field, becoming an expert at something for 5, 10, 20 years, it's almost impossible to remember what is it like to be a beginner when you don't know all this technical jargon, when you don't know
Sure.
all of this, industry lingo. So we realized that beyond any of like the advertising or the marketing that we were helping people with, we realized that that was like the true essence of what would make an expertise based business successful, is how clearly and simply can they articulate what they do to someone who's not an expert.
Mhm.
So we had a pretty extensive like research process that we would run through with a client. It would take like over a week, when we would onboard a new client, to kind of flesh this out with them.
Mhm.
And I was always thinking like there has to be a better way. Like there's so much like manual effort, there's so much like work that goes into this. um and this is obviously now in the era of AI.
Yeah.
Pretty much for more than half of my business, AI did not exist. And I've seen now from 2023 until now, obviously the massive exponential change.
Sure.
And really in like the last like 6 to 8 months, it's the first time where I've seen AI be able to replace me. Like I've been able to see AI can write marketing copy, it can create advertisements, it can create emails exactly like how I would. Like you could put an email made by AI and one that I wrote a year ago, and I couldn't tell you which one I wrote. Like it's almost impossible. And
Mhm.
that gave me the idea that, okay, what if there was a way to automate this very difficult and very manual process that we do every single day, that is
Mhm.
kind of the core root of success for like every single one of our clients, is how clearly can they communicate what they do. um, the hypothesis was basically, can we create a digital clone? Can we create a clone of an expert's mind, of what they know, what their subject matter expertise is, so that we have this much easier way of kind of creating the marketing and creating all of these other business assets around what they already know? That's the other company that I'm working on. It's called printer.ai.
Mhm.
It's essentially a way for, like I said, subject matter experts to take what they know, put it into an AI, so that that AI can basically be used as their personal assistant to extend everything that they already know, but more easily get it out to their clients, get it out to their team, and so on. So the prototype of it that we've built, like I said, it's essentially what I've been using in my business for the past 6 months. Like almost
Mhm.
every single piece of marketing content has been built using our own version of printer.ai. Um, and it's one of the first times where, like I said, like I can't tell the difference between what I write and what comes out of this. Um, And the goal is obviously that soon we'll be able to extend this to any subject matter expert, like lawyers, doctors, consultants, anyone that has a very specialized knowledge and expertise. But right now, we're still in the very
Mhm.
early testing phases of it. But if people wanted to join the waitlist to kind of see what develops with it, the website's just printer.ai. I'd love to share it with anyone that would be
So
interested in something like that.
we will include that in our show notes so people can join the waitlist. But it's amazing thing that you have been doing, and here we are talking to Lucas Lee-Tyson, who is really making a change in the space of digital marketing. And I'm very confident that his tool that he's working on will be making a great segue for the entrepreneurs and the leaders.
Yeah,
Now, I know a lot of us, your well-wishers and your fans, Lucas, are willing to know a little different side of you, probably a lighter version. So we have something called a rapid fire round
hmm
where I will be asking 5 questions from you. And do not think, do not spend too much time in thinking, and just give an answer to those questions. Okay.
sure.
Those questions are coming on my screen now. It will not come to your screen, but it is on my screen. Okay. What's one daily ritual you never skip, no matter how hectic the day?
Every day I try and walk my dog twice a day. It's great for
Okay,
clearing the mind.
nice. Clearing the mind by walking the dog. Very good. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Very much a night owl.
Night owl.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. So you are around 75% of our guests. They are night owls. So
Yes.
you're adding
Yep.
to that list, Lucas.
Yep. Yep.
Um, what's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
I think the ability to discern A players from B and C players. And obviously that's something that can in part only come from experience, but I think that's the most valuable thing that any leader or manager can have is knowing who to have on their team. Um, if you could wave a magic wand and have perfect
Uh-huh.
ability in that skill, you'll go far in anything you do.
Awesome. Your go-to food you can eat anytime, anywhere.
Chinese food, sesame chicken, orange chicken, Szechuan chicken, all of that.
Nice. Run fried rice. Very good.
Yes. Yep.
If you have to attend a leadership retreat, Lucas, which ideal location will you prefer, indoors or outdoors?
I like outdoors. Yeah, I think it's a great way to bond with people too.
Awesome. Well, at Study Steps, we do many outdoors events because we believe in bonding. We believe in experiential learning.
Yeah.
And by showing the slides, nothing happens. It just
Yeah.
becomes very boring. So,
Yeah.
all right. So we are coming on the towards the end of our episode, Lucas. Before I let you go, our young professionals who aspire to be future leaders, as a young entrepreneur who has been very successful, what would be your words of wisdom to these corporate employees who want to become leader tomorrow? Uh, Please share your final words of wisdom on leadership.
I would say the first thing, kind of like we've talked about so far, is just have confidence. If someone has done what you want to do, there's nothing different about them. Everyone's the same human underneath. It's not like they're from a different planet. They weren't like born with some super intelligence. They're probably just a person who, through their own ingenuity, they figured it out. And I think that's one of the most important skills is just having the agency to be willing to figure things out. That's a huge one. Um, and the second thing is just not having an ego. Like when I was
Mhm.
getting started, I literally took like $20 jobs on Upwork, which it would be like the equivalent of like $5 an hour.
Mhm.
Um, I think if I had told like a lot of my friends that I was doing that, they would have like laughed at me. They would have been like, I would never do that. But I knew that that was going to be the way that I get my foot in the door on this Upwork platform. I start building the reviews, and I knew it was going to snowball. Um, and I think a lot of people, especially people earlier in their career, are sometimes afraid to do that, or they're maybe nervous about doing that because they think, oh, if I do this lower level task, then I'm going to do that forever, or they're never going to take me seriously. But I think sometimes the opposite is true. I think the people who are willing to, get their hands dirty with projects and tasks that are not sexy, they're not fun. A lot of people are not willing to do them. that is the quickest way to accelerate in your career and
Mhm.
accelerate in your business, is to do things that other people are not willing to do, or they sometimes maybe have too much of an ego to be willing to do. Um,
Yeah.
so those are the two things that have carried me really far, and I think they could help
Awesome.
a lot of people.
Very cool. And the second aspect that you mentioned, I think I have very great memories working in the corporate, where at times people have reached to me that, okay, I want to work for this team and this team only.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very much particular about that team. And I think what Lucas is mentioning, focus on the work, focus on making an impact rather than focusing on that one team, one project,
Right.
a CEO project or a C-level
Right.
project or a HR director project, just any project, a project for your admin team, a project for your back office team could also be an amazing project.
Right.
So,
Totally.
so now, from my aspect, I have some learnings as well, Lucas. I wanted to share with my audience overall
Yeah.
what I learned from your experience, Lucas.
Yeah.
Number one learning for me is pain. Pain could be the motivator.
Yeah.
Don't take pain just to feel the pain. Turn that pain into motivator. So that
Mm-hmm.
was number one learning for me. Number two was, as multiple times Lucas has mentioned, belief in yourself. Have that belief. No one else will have belief in you unless and until you have belief in yourself. So that is the first thing, for you to instill that confidence. Yes, your leaders will have to build that confidence, your spouse, your friends, they have to tell you, but ultimately you need to know that you are good at what you are good at.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not the least is, don't be a spread number. Sorry, don't be a spread number on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Make an impact.
Yeah.
Make an impact that can really change the world, change the team that you are working with.
Yep.
With that said, please let us know which part of this episode resonates well with you. Please continue to shower love to Lucas and then the Climb podcast by liking and sharing our podcast on YouTube as well as leaving a review on Apple. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again, Lucas Lee-Tyson, for being here as a guest. We are very, very proud to see your success, and Steady Step wishes you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you
Thank
and
you
have
so
a
much.
great day.
Thank you.